Hey everyone, this is Chris with Hi-Lux Optics.
And this is Scott. And we are back again for another weekly Q&A session. I should make a note though, that there is a rifle here in front of us, but the rules of YouTube Live say that I cannot handle, hold, or really do anything to this firearm. So it shall sit here, but I'm not allowed to actually touch it. And that's just the way things are here. So this week, we'd like to start off with letting you all know what is back in stock finally.
And we got quite a few things back in stock. Our Hare Golden Boy 22 mounts for all their Malcolm Gen 2 short scopes. It's also compatible with the 8 power and 20 power if you so desire to mount those. We also have our M82 mounts, our Winchester lever action red dot mounts for with the RMR pattern, and the
long scope.
And the brand new long scope.
Yes, sir. Oh, man. I love shooting that thing. We've got it mounted up. I mean, here on the Sharps, we've thrown it on the high wall. It's safe to say that the amount of lead that we've used is cost prohibitive.
Well, that's it's been a lot of fun, and we've definitely put a lot of rounds through it when we're testing and developing the long scope. But I'm happy to say that we finally do have them in stock, and we'll go over some of the changes between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 scopes a little bit later on in this video.
To start off, though, we have another series of questions. I'll throw this one right at you. Hello, I've had surgery on my right eye twice to reattach my retina. My right eye is my dominant eye. It was suggested that I might try red dot scopes or low power scopes. I know nothing of red dot scopes. Being a deer hunter for 40 years, I'm not about to give up, just need answers and a lot of help.
Yeah, so red dots would be something that you could look into, but they also are a little bit tricky, especially for people who have astigmatism. If you have an astigmatism and you look through a red dot or any open reflex or a reflex sight where the LED is being bounced off the front lens, the reflection of the dot into the sight picture may essentially it may cause a little bit of starbursting or appear to be starbursting in your eyes. A little workaround is to maybe look into something like a fiber optic illuminated low power variable scope, or maybe even a prism sight. Something like that would alleviate the starbursting. And so for something in our line, if you're used to shooting Winchester lever guns, you could use one of our Winchester lever action red dot bases with our TD3C. That would allow you to mount up. If you have the Williams peep sight mounting holes on the left side of the receiver, you could mount a red dot pretty low on top of the receiver without any additional modification to your gun.
Now, you did mention the fiber optic red dot sight, so that also is our CMR8, which does have a red dot built in, but not your standard reflective red dot. It's actually got a fiber optic line right down in there to throw the light directly at you.
Mm-hmm. And that is extremely bright. And the one thing I like about it is at 1 power, it's pretty much true 1 power magnification. Keep both eyes open. Your eyes just naturally go to the center. It acts like a red dot, but without as much of the starbursting or downsides of that. And you can crank it up to 8 power too if you need a little bit more magnification to make your shot.
I think though ultimately the best advice I can give this fella is you got to look through these optics, because we could talk about this and describe this to you, but it may not actually reflect what you are going through personally. So you just got to go to a gun shop, go somewhere, and look with your actual eye through an actual scope.
We got our first comment. Sup, Vernon? It's nice to see you in the chat. If you're going to be at Wolverine Days next month, I'll be there. So hope to see you.
Yeah, I have a little baby, so I can't exactly stay away from home all that long. Otherwise, the wife has to watch the baby, and she is. Kids have too much energy, man. It's just, oh my God, 10 months old. She won't stop moving. So this next question is a bit, we're going to throw it a bit into history here. Does anyone know what the mid-range trajectory of the 500 grain 4570 bullet would be at 2 miles? That is something that ballistic calculators can't really run the data on. By the time it's hitting the target, it's dropped to about 400 feet a second. All the numbers go pretty screwy. Now, there was a fella, RT Hare, tested this back in 1879. His mission was to take 3 different cartridges, a few different rifles, and see what he could push out to 2 miles for a sort of artillery fire, just push the maximum range of those rounds. Now, with the 4570-500, He did actually get it out to 3,500 yards, which is just a hop and a skip away from 2 miles even. In order to get there, though, he had to lean that rifle up about, I think it was 20 and a half degrees, something like 1,250 MOA. And this guy was shooting off sticks. He pretty much had sticks standing and a little bit of a sandbag. So he was just a phenomenal shooter to be able to make these shots. And he was putting down about 300 rounds a day for weeks.
Jeez.
His shoulder, don't try that at home. Don't try that at the range. That's just too much. It's ridiculous.
Was that with the trapdoor, the 1870?
He did do a trapdoor. He did do a specialty rifle and a modification of an early Lee Enfield, I think. And the Enfield, if I'm remembering this right, maxed out at 3,200. It actually felt like 75 yards short of 3,200. The other rounds, the other rifles did push out to 3,500. The 45-70 500, when he first tried it, I think went 300 yards too far. And so they had to dial it back in. Theoretically, it could go farther than 2 miles. But at that point, you are well below subsonic. And the bullet still is so heavy, it's coming down at a 70-degree angle. It penetrated a wood target about 5¼ inches. So it's still hitting down like the fist of God. But their target was 44 feet wide.
Man,
the precision was just not there. His impacts, four hits out of 30 shots, I think. Not phenomenal, but pretty good shooting off stick standing with iron sights, modified with an extra 7-inch extension.
Hell of a lot better than I can do. And I guess that's where that saying hitting the broadside of a barn comes from, right?
Yes, that is actually the legal size of the side of a U.S. standard barn, 44 feet. Yeah, anyway, he hit it. It's doable. But to answer the question about trajectory, at the mid-range of that, it's going to be really high up, and it's going to be going pretty slow. I don't have exact figures for that. I don't think anyone does. It's the flight time's like 21 seconds. It just doesn't matter in the middle there. You're shooting over a hill.
And we got another comment. Have we done any testing with the 535 grain Postell? I'm not sure which Lyman mold that is, but we have done shot some with the 535 grain. It's like the flat nose. I need to look back and see which mold it was. But
was that the one with the 4 bands?
Yeah, it's got that 4 rings on the bottom.
Trying to remember, that might have been one of the ones that tumbled out of the 85 because that's got the weird bore size.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with these old guns. You got to slug all your barrels. You got to make sure every barrel is a little bit different, and you got to, like, if you really want to get the precision, you got to size your bullets. You got to weigh. First you got to weigh your cast lead bullets and maybe even powder coat them, or use and then you size them to the right size for your barrel. But yeah, it's a learning process for us, and it's a lot of fun.
I really he makes the ammo. I just have to shoot it. So I do a lot of trigger pulling. I'm very happy with that. So next question. I have a Pedersoli 45-70 with a 34-inch barrel. I would like to put a long scope on it, but I don't have a rear dovetail, nor is it drilled and tapped. I'd like some information on mounts and advice. Now, before I turn this over to Chris to talk about actually mounting it up, I will note 34-inch barrel, just like this rifle right here, you are going to need a 9-inch extension. Mm-hmm. And for those of you joining us now, I will say that, again, as per YouTube Live's rules, I'm not allowed to touch, handle, hold, or do anything to this firearm. This is the ultimate adult game of I'm not touching you. So how would he mount that up?
So that's a good question. I'm assuming he has the front sight dovetail on the barrel, which is good, but you will need some kind of feature on the rear, whether it's a dovetail cut into the barrel or 2 drilled and tapped holes on the rear. And that's just because you need some kind of platform to mount the rear dovetail or rear base. I'd say I would actually just drill 2 holes, but because I think it's less stress to the barrels to drill 2 holes than to cut a dovetail. But I mean, a dovetail is fine too. A lot of it's going to be negligible at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think wear really isn't an issue because most 45-70s do have a rear dovetail. I mean, you could practically Swiss cheese this barrel, and it's going to be able to stand the pressure.
Our friend down at Match Grade Gunsmith said even if you drill holes all the way through, they act as additional ports for the gas when you're shooting. So I don't think it'll affect accuracy, but don't quote me on that. I'm just speaking from.
Yeah, these these are low pressure rounds. If you load them in a way where you try not to make the rifle explode, they're going to be low pressure rounds, and the barrels are generally quite thick. So they can withstand a lot. Drilling holes, cutting dovetails. I mean, our 85, we've got like 2 dovetails and like 6 or 8 holes in that thing. Like it'll handle it.
But yeah, once you have that, and you want to mount a scope such as our long scope, our Gen 2 long scope, we do include all the mounts on all the bases for the dovetails. So you would just either need to cut a dovetail or drill 2 holes in the rear.
Yeah, one of our bases that's built just for drilled and tapped holes, as it turns out, does actually fit the standard hole spacing for sights on a Pedersoli. Now, it sounds like you may not have any holes, any dovetails in the rear, in which case, I mean, you got to put something there. It needs a second fulcrum point. So, gunsmith.
And kind of leads us into our discussion for today, which is the differences between the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 Malcolm 6-power long scope. Well, we kind of touched on it already. The hallmark feature, I think, of the new long scope is we've redesigned the optical system. So the glass, the optics are all brand new, fully multi-coated. We have a clear image from edge to edge, and also now you have the ability to boost up the magnification to 10 power. We have an additional eyepiece that you can swap out. You take off the existing 6-power eyepiece, and you can put on the 10-power eyepiece, and you get some more magnification for shooting. If you're shooting extra far, it's nice.
Now, I should note that only works on the versions of the long scope that have parallax adjustment. That's because in order to be able to have swappable eyepieces, we had to redesign literally the position of every piece of glass in addition to its shape. The old scopes, the ones that did not have the parallax adjustment, the glass just isn't in the right place. The 10-power eyepiece, if you put it on, I've tried it, you just get a gray sight picture. And it's a very clear gray, but it's just gray.
Yeah, it's not going to be able to resolve the image. But yeah, as Scott mentioned, we do have parallax adjustment on this scope. It's right in the middle. So when you're shooting, you don't have to get up and go to the objective to adjust it. You can just focus it with your offhand.
Here, I'll mimic this out again. Can't touch the rifle, so shoulders about here. You just kind of reach forward. You got your hand on it. And there you go. I've turned it with 1 finger. It works fine. 2 fingers. Use a whole hand. Whatever.
Yep. So close focus distance of 10 yards. So whether you're sighting in or you got it on, I don't know, maybe like a little Sharps 22, and you want to shoot up really close, you can focus it down to 10 yards or bring it out to infinity.
Yeah, it's I can't really give an exact value on what the total adjustment range of this mount is. If you're into doing geometry at all, you just need the distance between the 2 mounts, the front and the rear, and then you figure the back end of the triangle is 1.5 inches. That'll tell you the maximum angular change up here at the front, which is your overall adjustment. It's 200 plus, but again, that really depends on the distance.
Yeah.
This rifle, I think, is, we probably get about 230 MOA out of this thing, and it's about 21.5 inch spacing.
Something like that. Yeah. So that's the tricky part. All the barrels have the dovetails cut in different places. And the sight radius is really what determines your adjustment value. I guess there's like trade-offs to this. The benefit of having something like this with the rabbit ear rear mount is that you have a lot of travel and you can get down really, really granular. Whereas if you have something like our Unerdal style mounts where it's 7.25 spacing, every click's a 1/4 MOA, but you can't get finer than that. So trade-offs. But yeah, as far as I think on our high wall, our spacing was
22 7/8.
22 7/8, and that got us pretty close to about 5th MOA per indication mark on the turret itself. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, you just get us your sight radius and we can calculate that for you.
Yeah, we will do the math. I have a chart on the website right now in one of our blog posts that has math pre-done for whole inch division starting at 20 inches. Most likely your dovetails are going to be farther than 20 inches apart. If they're closer, that's weird, but it's entirely doable. And also, strangely, our high wall that has a barrel 2 inches shorter than this one has dovetails placed 1 inch farther. So it's all over the place.
Yeah. And let's see, what other questions? So we have adjustable elevation in the rear. Fine elevation is now built into the rear mount. We have adjustable windage on the front. We'll have vernier markings on the rear rabbit ears and also the front ring and the front ring dovetail base, so you can precisely see where your what your settings are. And each line is about 50. It's not about. It's exactly 50 thousandths. So depending on what your sight radius is, we can calculate what every major division is, and also what every minor or every tick mark on the fine elevation handle is.
And as I said before, the rear, you've got 1.5 inches of vertical adjustment. The front, you have 0.5 inch, so you have 1/3 as much windage as you do elevation. That has been fine for me shooting out to 1,000 yards, although we haven't been shooting in 20-mile-an-hour winds in order to do that. Mm-hmm. If you get up that high, if your bullet's traveling real slow, you're probably going to have to start holding off Kentucky windage. Mm-hmm. But shooting out in the desert, we haven't had an issue.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I think that's pretty much it. We have had, one more last thing. So the reticle. The reticle, yep. Yeah. So we have we kind of changed the reticle frame on the long scopes. Just from some customers shooting extremely heavy or extremely stout loads, they've broken their crosshairs, and in the old ones, it's really difficult to replace the reticle. But now we have kind of adopted the system on the uninertal scopes. So there's 2 set screws and a reticle lock ring, and we'll be offering different kinds of reticle patterns. Like if you want a thinner crosshair, or if you want one with a circle in the middle, we'll be offering that sometime down the road.
Yeah, I think that about sums it up. It's so hard not to touch this rifle when it's right in front of me. It's just like, it's beautiful. It's there. YouTube won't let me. Very frustrating.
Yeah. Well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. And yep, see you guys next week.
Take it easy out there. And now let's see if we can end this live stream. Whoop. Maybe not. Nope.